You're listening to the Out of Bounds Show podcast, presented by Independent Roofing Systems. If you want it done right the first time, visit Independent Roofing Systems today.
Yes, Pickens Jackson.
Are you ready? Yes!
Now live from the Whiskey 61 Lounge inside the BankPlus Studio.
You are listening to
Mississippi's #1 sports talk show, The Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Streaming worldwide live on the Out of Bounds radio app and on your radio at ESPN 105.9. The Zone.
There's some Michael Wilbon animosity on the Mississippi agup.com text line. Good morning. Welcome in. We are the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, brought to you by the great steaks at Kessler Prime and the Renaissance. Visit KesslerPrime.com to make a reservation. Hope you're doing well. You can hit us up on the Farm Bureau Insurance call-in line, 601-707-3750. Twitter handle at BoBounds. Presented by the Spray-In Bedliners and Lift Kits, Rick's Pro Truck, RPT, ricksprotruck.com. And again, the text line is 601-885-3776, brought to you by agup.com. Manage your land with the John Deere tractor from agup.com. John Deere, America's tractor. We'll have Michael Katz.
That's correct.
DJournal.com, Ole Miss Insider at 8:15. And then Brad Edwards, 25 years at ESPN, will join us at 9:30 live in studio. And he'll talk about his new book, Dynasty by the Numbers, on the Saban era at Alabama. Basically paints a picture, storytelling through numbers. And it is a fantastic book. Very, very well done. All kinds of graphs, numbers. As Blake said, it's hardcover. Really, really nice. Great picks. And there's some stuff in here I think that you'll be blown away with. Whether you're a Bama fan or a college football fan. It's amazing that Tennessee has not ever, they have not beat Bama since the iPhone or Twitter rolled out.
Is it that surprising, though?
Golly. That's a bad deal, man. If Lane Train stays at Tennessee, though.
See, that's why I go to, is it that surprising? Look at who their coaches have been.
Derek Dooley?
You can't beat Saban by trying to out-Saban him. You have to be innovative and creative offensively and force Saban outside his box. Mm-hmm. You got to bring the game to him. Don't let him sit back and make it easy.
Can I give you a fun fact?
I like fun. A Coors Light cold hard fact?
Let's do that. We'll do that. How about this? In the 2009 through 2020 seasons in college football, Saban had 20 wins over the AP Top 5. No other college football coach has more than 18 wins in an entire career against that level of competition. Bobby Bowden's 18 came over a span of 28 seasons. Saban has 20 over the AP Top 5.
Wow.
From 2009 to 2020. Just something to throw out there.
That's pretty impressive.
It is.
Nick Saban's good at coaching football. Give me a hot take.
Give me a hot take. Mike Wilbon gave us a hot take. Somebody on our text line said Wilbon still believes that the Big Ten is the best conference in college football. Correct.
Woof.
Correct. Although Wilbon's good at his job, he's definitely, an East Coast elitist. And he thinks, without a doubt, that the Big Ten is still the preeminent conference in all of college football. That's not the case.
They are not.
They are not, and haven't been in some time. Out of bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. Brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your auto and home and save with your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. I like Bama to win the game. I won't go full-blown prediction until a couple of days from now. Ole Miss could win, but they got to show me. This is it. Mm-hmm. It's a great opportunity. You've got a generational quarterback, the most talented quarterback you've ever had on campus. You count his arm and his legs, and then the play caller that he has on the sideline. You've got weapons and so on. We really don't know a lot about your defense because you haven't played anybody. Is it better? We think it is. We don't have anything to go on. Bama is always good. I don't think with a new quarterback and an offensive line that can't run block that they're necessarily maybe what they have been at times, but they're still really good. Their defense is good, not what it was, and I don't think they're going to be what they were in 2011. So that's just not the way everything's working today. Have you noticed Saban's shift in the way he's recruited? He's recruiting smaller players. You can run the numbers. Bartu ran them. He's got it on his Patreon account. Saban is recruiting smaller linebackers. That doesn't mean that these guys aren't ferocious and huge, okay? But I'm compared to years ago. Thinner defensive ends, but faster, speed still,
exactly.
So on. You can tell his safeties aren't as heavy as they were just a few years ago. I mean, he's running the numbers. They were averaging, recruiting safeties at 207 pounds of safety, now at 198. The game has changed because of what Hugh Freeze, now Lane Kiffin, a little bit of Manziel, a lot of Deshaun Watson and Dabo have done. I mean, you got to, again, I've had a friend whose son is a Power 5 recruited linebacker, and they're like, we don't want you to gain weight. We want you to lose weight. If you can't run sideline to sideline like a deer, you're done. The guys that I played linebacker with that had no idea what lateral quickness was, they were thumpers.
Mm-hmm.
Everything was run between the tackles.
But now you got to cover people.
Look at what Lane's going to do on Saturday.
Yep.
Look at what he'll do with the seams. You got to be able to turn, shift those hips, baby, and roll. Or if Jerrion Ealy's coming out of the backfield, good luck. Even with Alabama's offensive line down, I wonder if Bama will still gash Ole Miss on the ground. That's what Ole Miss has to avoid. Because if you're getting gashed on the ground, where's Matt Corral? He's standing by Kiffin. The numbers tell us so far that even with the competition that Ole Miss has faced, when they have decided to run the ball, and they haven't done it much because Ole Miss has jumped out on everybody, the defensive efficiency numbers show that Ole Miss is still getting gashed on the ground. They just haven't had a lot of reps with it because they're up 21-0 before you can even drink half of your Dr. Pepper. So this is going to be interesting. Can DJ Durkin draw something up to somewhat slow down Bama running the football to keep Matt Corral on the field, or does Bama gash them on the ground and keep Matt Corral standing by Lane Kiffin? To me, that's the game.
Yep.
Pretty simple.
The less opportunities he has, the less he can burn you.
If he's on the field all day, you're going to have your hands full. If you keep him with his helmet, him holding his helmet, then you can dictate. But if they let Lane and Corral dictate, Alabama's going to play 4 different running backs. And we're looking at them right here. They don't really have a super stud, so to speak, but these guys were all in the top 10 in one class or another. And they're all 4 stars.
Means you have a lot of fresh.
Does that mean Nick Saban's not recruiting like he needs to be?
Fresh legs.
Fresh legs. Could rotate up to 4 running backs through the backfield behind Bryce Young on Saturday against the Ole Miss Rebels in that DJ Durkin defense. Michael Katz coming up next. Ole Miss Insider, Southern Cal grad. Lane Train must have hired him. The show is powered by Kessler Prime and the great steaks at Kessler Prime and the Renaissance. Back in a second. You can order award-winning Jonesy Q rubs and sauces at jonesyq.com. Use promo code OOBSHOW if you order $20 or more and receive free shipping. That's jonesyq.com. Promo code OOBSHOW. And Michael Katz, Ole Miss Insider, djournal.com, joins us on the Modelo guest line. Michael, we've heard rumors that Michael Wilbon will be sitting in Nick Saban's box on Saturday for the Ole Miss Bama game. Can you confirm or deny those rumors?
I cannot confirm or deny, but I can say that whole situation is quite bizarre. I think you guys would agree.
No doubt. That was like, I can't imagine them having any interaction, maybe at some point. But, boy, didn't that feel personal to you, Michael?
It did. I can't see anything outside of that would make it make any sense. I mean, even if you're not a fan of things that he's done in his coaching career, it just seemed very, like you said, very personal. And it came out of nowhere. I saw that clip last night, and I couldn't help but wonder what kind of spurred this. I'm now going to go down a rabbit hole of Wilbon Lane Kiffin history and see if I find anything.
All right, Katz, you told us last time you were on that you're a Southern Cal Trojan alum. Are your buddies back on the West Coast hitting you with texts and so on and saying, man, I wish we had Lane Kiffin back?
My dad has told me that a few times. I think the USC situation is it's interesting how things kind of – I think USC kind of they did the old Ole Miss David Cutcliffe thing where I think they didn't realize what they had was pretty good, and then they get rid of it, and things don't necessarily go the way that they thought they would. And the USC situation, I think, is a very good reminder that it's not always – grass greener on the other side, and
True.
I think Lane Kiffin's done pretty well for himself, and my Trojans just lost to Oregon State for the first time since I think my dad was a teenager. So
62 years.
Yeah. Oh God. Oh yeah. No, actually, he was not even a teenager yet, which I guess will make him happy. But yeah, it's ugly. But yes, I have gotten some joking, some serious about whether a reunion is in the future, and I have said no so far, and I'm going to stick with that.
Michael Katz, Ole Miss Insider, djournal.com. Ole Miss at Bama, 2:30 CBS this weekend, and we're all ready. What is the key for – let's just bottom line it. What is the key for Ole Miss to win the game?
I think that if they want to give themselves a chance, I look at it like this. The offense is unless something crazy happens, is going to put up some points. I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think what has to happen is the defense has to make a couple of wow moments. And what I mean by that is the big interception, the fumble recovery, the fourth down stop, something like that. I think that they need – you can't let Alabama control the game. You can't let them just run their offense as normal. They can't just, have their explosive plays and do what they do. I think Ole Miss needs to take drives away from Alabama if they want to have a chance, because if it gets into a shootout, odds are Alabama's going to have more firepower, and the odds are they're going to get a few defensive stops. They're home and they are Alabama. But I think that if Ole Miss wants to have a chance, they are going to need to make some wow plays. And maybe a wow play comes on offense too. Maybe a little Chad Kelly bonk off a defender and into a receiver's hands for 66 yards is in the future. I think they wouldn't mind that either. But I think they need those big sort of wow moments. And I think on defense particularly, if they're going to have a chance. I was speaking with ESPN's Ryan McGee yesterday, and he brought up that, if Ole Miss wants to have a chance, they're going to need a quote-unquote moment or two. And I think that's kind of what I mean by those wow plays. I think that they're going to need sometimes an upset takes a little bit of luck.
Sure.
And I think that, and I think that they're going to need some things to go their way.
Nah, I agree. And either Ole Miss has to make it happen or Alabama needs to make like some big mistakes is where I think you're going, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And however it happens, they need to take advantage. They can't have those interceptions go off their hands, and they can't have the balls get fumbled out of bounds when they could have jumped on it. Every opportunity that comes their way, they have to hit it.
If Kiffin wins the toss, don't you take the ball?
I mean, he's a gambler, and I think that's, if you want to silence 100,000 people, the way you do that is you go and score quickly, or if you're one for dramatics, you make it a long, sustaining drive that just sucks their soul out. But either way, I think that if they win that toss, I think the gambler is going to do what he does, and play that card and go down and score. And if it backfires, backfires. But I know that if there's one thing I know about Lane Kiffin is that he wants to go down swinging, and so I think that would be a pretty smart move on his part to try to silence that. What I imagine is going to be a very, very, very excited crowd.
What do you make of the line? Do you think it's about right, 14.5, or how do you see it?
I mean, in my head, I thought it would be around 10 or so. 14 seems a little high, but Vegas does what Vegas does, and sometimes I think Vegas knows something, but then other times, sometimes they pick USC to beat Stanford by 17, and then USC loses by 20. So, sometimes Vegas doesn't always know what's best. So, I did think it was a little bit high, but we've seen these games where we think Alabama's in for a close one, and then they end up kind of pulling away, and it's been happening for 15 or so years, and so I think for the most part Alabama's going to get the benefit of the doubt. But for me personally, it did seem a little bit high. I thought 10 was going to be about right.
Michael Katz, djournal.com, Ole Miss insider. He joins us on the Modelo guest line. You mentioned the crowd. Nobody had a rough road game last year, just because there were either 25% or less stadium capacity in the stands. This year, Ole Miss hasn't had a road game. How do you think that could impact kind of even though you got the best QB in America and Lane, who knows what he wants to do, but the offensive line, among others, and they want to go fast, how do you think 105,000 people going nuts could impact the offense, Michael?
I mean, that's going to be interesting, right? I think there are a lot of benefits to having a veteran quarterback, but I think it is going to potentially really come in handy for a situation like this. Like you said, Ole Miss does want to go fast. I'm sure that they are installing some, nonverbals and whatnot, because I doubt that anytime Matt Corral has the ball, they are going to be able to hear much. And so, but again, you score fast, and that crowd quiets down a little bit. So, I think with having, like you said, the best quarterback in America, and I think this is going to be a pretty defining game for him.
Yeah.
If he is in control, like I think he will be, Matt Corral he's a gritty guy. He's a competitor. He feeds off energy. I think in a perfect world, he gets that crowd quiet and makes the noise himself.
Are you picking Ole Miss to win?
No. I'm
not either.
By, I think I said it. I think it was like 45-34. I think it's going to be a really good game for a bit, and then I just think that Alabama is going to do what it does.
Sure. I've got about 15 seconds. Have you been to a game at Bryant-Denny?
I have not. I am really excited. I'm going to get there very early so I can take it all in.
Dude, you're going to have a good time. You are. It's a cool town. And, again, the atmosphere is going to be great. You got the best quarterback in America, and you got the most talented team in America, and two coaches that have worked together. It's a beautiful thing. It's a good week for Michael Katz, and and Parrish Alford and djournal.com. Enjoy Tuscaloosa, Katz. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Michael Katz, Ole Miss Insider, djournal.com. Can Matt Corral, Blake, silence the crowd early with the scoring possession? The Out of Bounds Show is powered by MississippiSportsMedicine.com. Back in a second.
The Out of Bounds Show podcast is brought to you by Kessler Prime. For the best steaks in Mississippi, visit Kessler Prime in the Renaissance.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. We're going to drop a little audio coming up. Got a lot of... if you think Blake's feisty, I got Ryan Fowler on yesterday taking a shot at Ole Miss. I got Michael Wilbon taking a shot at the Lane train. I just find it hard to believe, even with Lane's Southern Cal, Oakland Raiders for like 6 months, when they would have really rubbed elbows. Maybe Wilbon just felt like, I don't know, maybe he just needed a hot take to push PTI. I don't know. I don't watch anymore. Great concept, good show for a long time. Michael Wilbon, ESPN, taking a shot at the Lane train. We're going to drop that. We'll start with that, Blake. We'll drop that in just a second. The SEC Insider Hit this morning is brought to you by Fleetway Market. Fuel up at Fleetway Market. Hot food, cold beer, to-go items for game day. They have a rewards card program, locally owned. You've got the Fleetway Market in Dogwood, Fleetway Market in Madison, over in 51 by Jersey Mike's and MRA. Fleetway Market in Gluckstadt. They have the Market Cafe there. Some really good food. Really, really good food. They do a good job there. You can smash a sandwich or some chicken strips, all at Fleetway Market. When you're going to Tuscaloosa, Starkville, Oxford, Cleveland, Hattiesburg, the hunting camp or the beach, fuel up at Fleetway Market with 22 locations in the state of Mississippi. This is Michael Wilbon on PTI, where they were just supposed to be, discussing who they picking the game, picking the winner of the Ole Miss Bama game. And this is where Wilbon decided to take it.
Mississippi because of Lane Kiffin. The answer is Alabama because of Lane Kiffin. There's nothing to be proud of if you're a college footballer or any other sport for Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin's a clown. Lane Kiffin has been an embarrassment at multiple stops. I mean, nobody's going to run out there and say, yeah, I want Lane Kiffin right here on the logo representing me. The answer is Alabama, Tony. Lane Kiffin's a cute little story for guys like us who have to talk about sports every day, and we can come in Monday and say, ha, 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 Lane Kiffin. Once again, Lane Kiffin equals embarrassment at some point wherever he is. Alabama.
He didn't do that at Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, but as a lot of people on Twitter like to make the point yesterday, I bet Michael Wilbon doesn't know he coached at Florida Atlantic.
That's a good point. Wilbon doesn't know where he was between Bama and Ole Miss.
No.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
Because Wilbon's locked into the 76ers and Celtics matchup coming up, whatever, in a month and a half. What? Did he just need a hot take?
It just feels too... like he talks about nobody wants Kiffin's name on their brand or whatever. Like it just doesn't seem like the hot take. I guess I don't know. It seems too personal to be hot takey. Hot takey might be Kiffin's offense is overrated and like this is all being blown up because he's a personality, but they're not going to be competitive against Alabama.
Gotcha.
That might be a hot take. To me, to go after the man, like you don't call someone a clown on national television. And it be like for hot take material, because that's personal. Like, you called him a clown. That was just weird.
I don't know what Kiffin could have done to Michael Wilbon that made Wilbon do that.
Yeah, because again, I just don't think you don't choose those words unless it's personal.
And he may not even know that Kiffin's doing a good job at Ole Miss. So it's a good point, Blake. We don't know.
It just seems like
college football's not in his wheelhouse.
Yeah, which is why you wouldn't go out and make a hot take right there that gets personal. Again, I just think it has to be something. Kiffin either said something back in the day, or they had some interaction, or maybe Kiffin did something to someone who Wilbon likes.
Knows.
Yes, maybe Kiffin quote unquote mistreated someone that Wilbon is tight with, and so then this was just a reciprocal shot. I don't know. But then Kiffin responded twice. He responded yesterday kind of jokingly.
Now, that surprised me. Kiffin's pretty witty and kind of understands Twitter. The first time, to come back the second time tells you that it did, and all of us are obviously human.
It got to him.
It got to him a little bit.
Yeah, see, the first response was good because someone obviously put the video out on Twitter and tagged Kiffin in it. And Kiffin goes, red face emoji, like angry. Geez, I'll pray for you. Life is too short to be so angry at PTI. That was fine. A normal initial Twitter reaction.
Sure.
Almost dismissive, kind of like, look, whatever, man. Like, you're an angry little elf. Nobody's worried. But then, 10 hours later, this morning, about 7:20 or so, he responded, said, way to go out on a limb and pick the number one team in the country at home, who is a huge favorite. How long did you watch film to come up with that surprise pick? Really newsworthy, Captain Obvious. Laughing face emoji at PTI. Now, that's 10 hours later. It means he didn't really sleep. That one bothered him.
I think it did.
I think he feels like that was a cheap shot at him on national TV.
He hasn't really been bothered in a while. He was bothered when Saban fired him.
Correct.
Since then,
because it was publicly humiliating.
Right. Since then, though, it's been a good run. Florida Atlantic, he got them up and running, did a good job. Walks into Ole Miss, he's done a good job. As he acknowledged in the athletic.com this morning, Andy Staples' article, he walked into a generational talent at the quarterback position.
What do you think of this
most
idea?
Talented quarterback Kiffin's ever coached.
Well, and arguably the most talented quarterback Ole Miss or the state of Mississippi has had. We'll see how that plays out. But
I think you've got a strong argument. Two guys that jump out at me are Corral and Favre. Just off the charts, athletic, strong. I know stylistically not exactly alike, but did use their legs and so on. That would be a great debate.
Yeah.
Because Brett was so athletic, strong as an ox, blah, blah, blah. And Corral is so underrated with his legs, but has an arm where he can throw it with ease 50, 60 yards plus down the field.
What about Steve's text? Kiffin's response this morning is Freeze-esque. Does that give you some pause for concern? Because I will say this feels like the first, I don't want to say chink in the armor because that's overblowing it, but it is the first time we've seen Kiffin react since he got to Alabama. Like I would say he went radio silent as an assistant in Alabama because he had to. And since that
that's
point,
a good point.
You see what I'm saying?
We didn't hear from Kiffin for 3 years.
Yeah.
Because Saban doesn't allow you to talk to the press.
And then nobody messed with him at FAU because who cared?
And nobody cared.
Exactly.
So that was like a 6-year run. That's a good point.
So this is the first.
It was like a 6-year run where we really didn't even hear from him.
So is it fair to say this is the first time we're going to get to see if Kiffin actually has matured because he's back in the spotlight?
Maybe.
Maybe
we sure think he has.
We've said he has, but he hasn't been in the light. Right? The reason he kind of made some of his decisions at an earlier age was because the spotlight was so bright, it maybe blinded his decision making.
Okay.
Now the spotlight is becoming bright again. Now he's responding to Michael Wilbon twice, 11 hours later. You know, I don't know. I'm just saying, like, maybe we're seeing more real Lane Kiffin now all of a sudden because the shining is so bright.
I'm not sure about that, but we'll see. I'm not convinced of that. But as a coach, I'd stay away from the second tweet. He's not going to get in trouble over it. I'd just stay away from it because it's not. I think of some of the other coaches that we really like. I mean, Saban's not on Twitter, so I can't use him. But some of the other coaches that we admire, and I just wouldn't walk down that road, so to speak. Out of Bounds, ESPN, powered by Fleetway Market. Fuel up at any of the 22 Fleetway Market locations. And the Market Cafe in Gluckstadt is fantastic. Also got a great selection of import beer and craft beer at Fleetway Market. Like Sam Adams Oktoberfest, which will not – I've already won. I went and got a case. So I can grab one a week for weeks and enjoy it. Lit a cigar yesterday afternoon. Opened to Sam Adams Oktoberfest. It was perfect. That will not be on the market much longer. I know it sounds crazy. They actually roll it out before October. But if you like it, go ahead and grab a 6-pack or 12, whatever you want, and grab one every now and then out of the refrigerator. We have it on tap. I'm trying to keep Matthew and Will away from it. And we also have New Belgium Voodoo Ranger. But Fleetway Market has a great selection of import like Modelo and Dos Equis and so on, Heineken. And then, of course, craft beer. It's going to be a fun weekend. I cannot wait. Game day's in Athens, not in Tuscaloosa, but it's a who's who going to T-Town. I mean, everybody and their brother is trying to get into Tuscaloosa, Alabama, to see what we already knew, that Matt Corral's the best quarterback in America, and that Nick Saban is taking on his former assistant coach who he had to fire 5 days before a national championship game. This game has so many storylines. It's amazing. Lane Train recruited Tua. He stole Jalen Hurts from Mississippi State and Dan Mullen. He totally overhauled the Alabama offense, in which Nick Saban gave him credit on Monday for doing that. And it was kind of a kicking and screaming thing. We all remember the sideline antics of Saban, and then Kiffin's face would be so outdone when Saban was wearing him out. We remember that, but it was very successful, even though the two were oil and water, and it drove Saban crazy that Kiffin didn't ever show up on time. Kiffin is so good offensively and at play calling. Kiffin doesn't understand why you have to meet at 6:30 in the morning. And Steve Spurrier thought the same thing. I mean, some people can get it done. They're still going to put in hours. But Kiffin didn't understand the 6:30 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. schedule. And our people in Tuscaloosa told us time and time again, he didn't get there on time to those meetings. It drove Nick Saban crazy. Mm-hmm. The problem was Lane is so talented.
You got to put up with it.
As a preparing for a defense and scheming and play calling and Saban knew he had to do what he had to do. So it was a fascinating partnership, one that we all love, because you see this in business. People are oil and water, and it works. You see it with musicians and bands. People are oil and water, and it works. You see it in other sports, right? I mean, NBA, you've had players and coaches that worked, but they were oil and water. Same thing. You've had starting pitchers in Major League Baseball that just get along with their manager just enough, but they're such an ace and they're such an alpha that it works. It happens. I think we all think of this kumbaya deal in life. It's just not there.
Well, it's like Jerry Jones said.
I mean, I tell Blake to go to hell about every segment break.
It's that's like Jimmy Johnson said. I don't treat Michael Irvin the same way I treat a backup DN.
I love that. Mean, do you if you've got a sales force of 100 people across the country, do you treat your top 8 like you treat number 78 through 88?
Yeah.
You don't.
No.
It's the biggest bunch of nonsense I've ever heard in my life.
Let me ask you this question about the Alabama Ole Miss game. Who do you think, given their time together and what they know about each other, who do you think's more prepared for the other? Kiffin for what Saban will do defensively, or Saban for what Kiffin will do offensively?
Kiffin. Saban has yet to figure this thing out, Blake. We're going to talk to Brad Edwards about this in 45 minutes. He will be live in studio. I mean, he just spent months writing this book, which he did a great job. 25 years at ESPN. He'll be here at 9:30 today. And according to Brad and others, Saban has yet to figure out how to stop a Deshaun Watson Clemson, Hugh Freeze, Lane Kiffin type offense.
The new look spreads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the wrinkles that go with this fun stuff that we're watching on Saturday and Sunday. Like we have defensive coordinators in the NFL that don't know how to stop it yet.
Correct. The Arizona Cardinals are so unique on offense. They ran a triple option from the pistol in the red zone against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I love that.
That's a team that usually runs 4 receivers, 1 running back. They're like super Mike Leach spready because Cliff King's that tree, and then they get in the red zone and they run a triple option out of the they run a wishbone out of the pistol. Like what? That's great. Like that's football now. It's multi formation in offense. So it's pretty remarkable. And the fact that Saban, that's what we always say, Saban's ability to decide I'm going to run this offense even though I hate it and I've been against it, I'm going to run it, is to me the difference between him and every other coach, because Kirby puts in plenty of hours, but he's unwilling to allow his offense to be run correctly. Jimbo puts in tons of hours, but he's unwilling to change how he coaches. Les Miles, when he was at LSU, Ed Orgeron at LSU, we see good coaches at good programs be unwilling to change with much less success than Nick Saban.
Right.
Nick Saban was uber successful, and he said, I'm willing to change my philosophy because I think I can be even more successful. That's impossible to do. 99 out of 100 people can't do that.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is even more incredible about the Saban-Kiffin relationship.
Their conversation before the game, I know it's only a couple of minutes. Man, I wish that would be mic'd up.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're not going to get after each other, but even Saban's not even good at small talk when he likes you. So Saban and Kiffin meeting at midfield for a little while as Corral's getting ready and Bryce Young's getting ready to play. What is it going to be?
You got to think Kiffin's going
to say, how's Miss Terry?
He's going to say something stupid too.
I don't think so.
I think he's going to mess with him.
You think so?
I think Kiffin's the type that he can't help but say something that he's going to want to get a wry smile out of Nick. Like nothing too over the top, but just
a little smart blank.
Yeah, just a little smart
enough.
blankery.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's that look, there's a little bit of a father-son, teacher,
no question,
student, mentor-student type relationship with them. I mean, I think Kiffin does want Nick Saban to respect him as a head coach. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. He wants Saban to think of him as a good head coach, regardless of what he thinks of him personally.
I agree. And eventually the streak has to be broken of assistant coaches not beating Saban.
Does it have to be broken?
I mean, you would think. Maybe not. Maybe he actually rides off 6 years from now and is undefeated against every single. Maybe he'll never. If Kiffin does stay in Oxford and Kirby, which we think he'll stay at Georgia, that's his alma mater. If they play a few more times apiece, and let's just say Saban stays another 6 years, maybe Saban does ride off into the sunset like 40-0 against his former assistant coaches.
If it's not Kiffin with the best quarterback, if it's not Kiffin with the best quarterback in the SEC this year, who's it going to be? I mean, Jimbo's not going to run a better offense than what Kiffin's going to have this year under Corral.
No.
Kirby certainly won't run a better offense than what Kiffin has with this year under Corral.
No, the odds tell you that neither one of them will land a quarterback even close to as talented as Matt Corral, just because it just doesn't happen.
Or if they do, they won't know how to develop him and get him to where he needs to be and run the right offense. I mean, Kirby had Justin Fields, and that turned into a disaster. Jimbo, his offense just doesn't dictate itself to have that type of star power. Not at the quarterback position. It's too convoluted. It's not going to develop someone like Corral. I just think it's going to be interesting to see that if it's not this year, maybe Saban doesn't lose.
All right, let's switch gears. Sam Pittman at Arkansas. I called Bartu yesterday. And I said, tell me how he landed on Kendall Briles and Barry Odom. And he said, luck. Luck. So you got to tip your cap. Sam Pittman is going to extend his career at Arkansas because of his first hires at the coordinator position. The odds that he will replace these two guys with anything close to what they are probably less than 1%. So if you're a Razorback, you're thinking we got to get kind of like Ole Miss this year with Corral. You got to get everything you can out of this, Blake. Like Ole Miss trying to go 10-2, 11-1. Extremely difficult in this debate. Extremely difficult. They win Saturday. This place is going to be bananas.
Yeah.
But then can you hold the line and basically not get upset? I know this sounds weird down the stretch because A&M's got a hell of a defense. Arkansas is a weird team that for whatever reason has given Ole Miss problems when Ole Miss has been good. Ole Miss had the best team we've had in the state of Mississippi in 2015. And they lost to what I considered a nice Arkansas Razorback team, but nothing special. So back to Arkansas and Ole Miss are, along with Mississippi State, considered to be the bottom part of the SEC West, although at times very competitive. Auburn A&M and LSU, we know, are not good. They're just not good. They're not special. They're not good football teams, and they have major question marks.
Yep.
2 of the 3 at quarterback. We're still not sure what we have with Max Johnson. So my question is this. You lean towards Ole Miss being more special because they can score. But Arkansas has a great opportunity to make hay. You got to go to Georgia. We're kind of not talking about that game because of Ole Miss and Bama. I think when you look at it, you could say the same for both of them. Kiffin's not going to get another Matt Corral. The odds tell you that's not going to happen. And Sam Pittman's not going to land on another duo of Kendall Briles and Barry Odom. And it's rare that the West looks like this. So this is it, man. This is the opportunity to go get the flag on the hill.
Yeah, the toughest part.
Can you knock down a 10-2, 11-1, or I think undefeated's a stretch.
Yeah. The toughest part for Arkansas is that their biggest SEC West game, in theory, on the road at Ole Miss, because at Alabama you would think would be really hard for Arkansas, but a potentially winnable but would be massive win at Ole Miss comes right after they go on the road to Georgia.
Yeah.
So that's tough for Sam Pittman and the crew. It'll be interesting to see how they fare.
And so the odds tell us that he will hire 2 coordinators that are 2 to 3 levels below what he has today. But it's an amazing story because he may extend himself because of what they've been able to do out of the chute, so to speak. He may be there 4, 5 years.
Yeah.
Which is a former offensive line coach at Georgia is a remarkable story. Right? The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Eye Care Professionals. Dr. Kirk Jeffries and the team on Lakeland Drive. 2 locations, Belmead, Flowood, Jackson down from Smith Wills. Lay-free LASIK and cataract surgery. Eye Care Professionals and Dr. Kirk Jeffries. The show is also brought to you by BankPlus. It's more than a name, it's a promise. Brad Edwards live in studio at 9:30.